Welcome, everybody. Some new faces. For me, new. Chaim Alex, I haven't seen you in such a long time. So nice to see you. Glad that everything is well. Hi, Thea, Elaine, Milton, Helen, Judy Stiglitz. We usually meet twice a week.
Yes,
How are you managing with the new Bayit format of the emails? That work well?
I was able to get on today, so very good.
Excellent.
I missed seeing you at Sonia Mofsa's talk on Shabbat.
That's because I wasn't there because I was away for Shabbat.
Oh, okay, good.
My daughter's in from Israel and she was in camp. She's in Camp Moshava, a drama teacher. So I went there to be with her and my three granddaughters.
Wonderful.
And I taught there as well, which was nice. Hi, David, Carol, hello, and of course, Bert. So welcome everybody, and Robert Moshe. Nice. Welcome everybody who came on today and for your continued learning with Bert, who brings so many halachic issues. There's this every time I'm like, yep, that's a great issue. Yep, that's a great one. They're all great, all the topics that you bring. So my topic actually got changed a few times because once a year I teach in HIR in lieu of a drasha. I teach what we call a mini shiur on halacha, kiddush, hamotzi, lighting candles. I can't remember what else. And this, well, I know I was about to get to that. This year, I taught on Birkat Kohanim. So Bert said, great, can you teach us? And of course, I said yes. But after that, I don't know how we got to that actually, that you asked me, oh, maybe because you saw the guidelines. So when I put out the guidelines, the halacha guidelines, which I'm responsible for in HIR, when I put out the ones for the 3 weeks, the 9 days, and Tisha B'Av, Bert said, this might be a nice topic for us to learn as a group what the halachot are. And I said, actually, I would add to that another piece, which is what I call, not me, I mean, it's not me, it's not I who coined the term. This is Reb Soloveitchik, Zichrono Bracha, who people here all know who Reb Soloveitchik was? People familiar with the name? If anybody is not, please let me know. You heard of it. Okay. So he was also my father's Reb. He married me my first wedding. And the Reb Shiur every summer in Boston. I myself went to a shiurim. By the way, going to hear the Rav explain keynotes on Tisha B'Av was just something fantastical. The whole Maimonides auditorium was open. Everybody's sitting around on the floor. And he is talking and talking and talking for hours and hours and hours. Sorry about that. Hours and hours and hours. And just gets stronger and stronger, even though he's fasting. It was really amazing. I couldn't follow everything he was saying because I was a young girl and it was over a microphone, but I certainly got the gist of a lot of it, and it was part of what it meant to do Tisha B'Av in Boston. I'm just going to let that person know that I'm not available now, so they won't call me again.
Before, let me interject, since there are some people who generally don't come. I'm particularly not familiar with Chaim Malks. You should just know that next week is going to be the beginning, God willing, of a 3-part series with Rabbi Linzer about halacha and people with handicaps. And if you haven't heard him give the talk about anything, or if you have heard, he's particularly interested in this personally, as well as a general, and he's really. Is it fair to call him one of the Gedolim?
100%. He's a brilliant man, a wonderful, wonderful teacher, and phenomenally knowledgeable.
I mean, and as I say, he's sensational. So if you haven't heard him, or if you have heard him, in that case, I needn't sell him. But if you haven't heard him give talks and stuff like that, he's as I say, he's a gadol. And we don't have, unfortunately, that many gedolim in the modern Orthodox community, and he certainly is one of them, and a major posek.
Okay, that's a pitch for next time. Okay. All right. So the term old mourning versus new mourning was coined by the Rav. I mean, not exactly like that, but he spoke about new mourning and old mourning. And Tova G also joined us. Nice to have you. And I wanted to ask people here before we go into the source sheet that I created. I wanted to talk a little bit with this. So given the age of the people in the group, I would assume, but I never want to assume, has everybody here experienced mourning, meaning sat Shiva, I would say. Everybody here who has, please raise your hand. Right. So Thea, I know. Also Tova, I don't know because I don't know what it is. Carol, also?
I didn't hear the question.
Oh, you didn't hear the question. Has everybody here experienced Shiva?
Oh,
Yes.
Th-
So, yeah. I mean, given the age, right? As you get younger, obviously, there are those who are not. And not everybody, even at, an older age, has experience, depending on. So that is what is called new mourning, mourning. New mourning, meaning we feel it now. It has now happened. We feel it immediately. And there's a visceral reaction. No, oh, hi. Oh, that's who it is. Tova G. Okay, didn't recognize the name. So we're talking about new mourning versus old mourning, or old mourning versus new mourning. So avelut chadasha, meaning new mourning, is something where we experience the grief immediately, or the sadness, or the missing, or, I don't want to speak for people who may have had a complicated relationship with the person who passed away, but there certainly is some strong feeling, as a rule, with people who passed away. And that we're talking about the close, the close mourners right now. And I'm talking about those one would sit Shiva for. That would be a spouse, a child, a sibling, or a parent. Okay? Everybody with me on that? So if somebody here would like to say something, really just a sentence or two, about what new mourning feels like and how the halacha guides us through that, just in a general way. Does anybody want to share that? Judy, I see that you're unmuted. You're unmuted. You're unmuted. Don't touch it.
Oh,
Yeah. Do you want to share? I don't know why if you're unmuted. No. Does somebody want to share? What is the feeling? What happens? How does the halacha work? Something about new mourning, which is the mourning that we know about. Anybody want to share? I mean, it's not a trick question, guys.
I think that what we're talking about when you're talking about mourning,
New mourning.
Recent.
New meaning it happened now, or recent, or the last 20 years in your lifetime.
Yeah.
That's what I would call new mourning.
Mourning relates to, I feel, a sense of deep loss.
Deep loss. Okay. And thank you. And how it's like, it's automatic. You don't have to do anything. It's there because you lose someone who's close to you.
It's painful.
Painful. Good. What else?
All the expectations, especially if it's sudden. Or
if it's sudden, correct.
It's unexpected.
Yep. But even if not, I just want to say, you prefer to be called Tova in this group?
All your dreams and wishes are dissipated.
Yeah. Thank you.
What I feel is pain, loss, and grief.
Pain, loss, and grief. Yes, very powerful. Thank you. And how does the halacha carry us or accompany us during our pain, loss, and grief? And if anybody else wants to add something, you're welcome to. Because not for everybody, it's a sudden loss. I just want to say, it can also be similar feelings or different ones, even if it's a slow loss. Carol, did you want to say something? I see you're unmuted.
It's numbing.
Numbing. It can be numbing.
You lose all feeling. You're so
One can lose all feeling. Maybe not forever.
Not forever.
Maybe it comes later, but there could be numbness 100%. That's a way that the body and the brain protects us from too much pain. That's what the numbness does. But eventually, yes, does work. Yes.
But I think the Shiva period and the ritual that we follow is what helps us. It's like a choreography of this is what we do, and it comforts you. I know the first time I lost anyone when my father died at 67 after an operation. It comforted me. I was on the road to being Orthodox, but I wasn't totally Orthodox at that point, and so it was my first exposure to the ritual.
Yeah, of course, which it often is anyway. Although you might see it for grandparents, right? But you're right; it was your first exposure. So Shiva, you're saying, is comforting and hugs the person. By the way, there was a Shiva. Just to tell you that a Shiva I went to many years ago. Somebody who's I guess that the woman who died, she died my age, died of breast cancer, and her mother was my mother's friend from childhood. So when I paid, I spoke to her after. She wasn't in the same country I was, but I spoke to her when I met her at I don't remember where. And I asked her about Shiva, and she said something interesting to me. She said the Shiva was so painful because she had lost her daughter that she was, I wouldn't say she was numb, but she wasn't able to speak to people. But she still remembers every person who came. She said, even though she couldn't speak to them as if to receive the comfort, it still felt comforting to her. And afterwards is where she was able to process it. So I found that to be very powerful, that sometimes you might think I did nothing, to pay Shiva call. And it could be, there are always exceptions, but let's just talk about in general, the majority of people. So that's Shiva. And what happens after Shiva for those, well, for any loss, actually? People.
Shloshim.
Shloshim. What's the difference between Shiva and Shloshim?
Shiva is just a week, and Shloshim is the week, but also
3 more.
4 weeks.
3 more. Yeah. 3 more weeks. Because if you get to 30 days, approximately 4 weeks. Right. But okay, good. And what's the difference between Shiva and Shloshim? Other than the counting?
Some of the things that you do are
mourning practices.
You stop doing.
They're relaxed, what we call relaxed. Yep. Like what?
Like you're no longer staying in your house.
You don't have to stay in your house. You don't sit on a low chair. You don't have to wear the Shiva shirt that's torn.
You don't have to say Kaddish.
Well, that I wouldn't say. Why don't you have to say Kaddish?
I know not every day though. You don't have to say Kaddish.
Yes, every day.
Yes, yeah, for the whole year.
No, that's the same. Wait, well, year is for a parent.
You're right. For 11
no,
months.
that doesn't, actually, that's the thing that doesn't change. And also I'm talking about the mourning practices, but it's good we brought it up. Kaddish is still incumbent. I mean, some people say once a day, some people 3 times, but you definitely can say it Shacharit, Mincha, and Arvit till Shloshim for everybody except for a parent. And it's another 10 months for everybody. Well, the Shloshim, and then another 10 months for a parent. Okay. A mother or father. Okay. Also, so the Shiva shoes, right? The Yom Kippur shoes. Do we have to wear them during Shloshim?
No.
We still don't take haircuts. I'll tell you a funny story. I mean, I thought it was funny. When my sister died, it was a little bit funny. My sister died in Elul, and my Shloshim was up during Chol HaMoed Sukkot. That's just when it happened to be. And I needed a haircut really badly. I needed it, I think, even when she died, and this was a month later. But on Chol HaMoed Sukkot, do we take haircuts?
Probably not.
We don't. I mean, unless they say somebody's let out of prison and couldn't do it before. So I felt that I kind of fell into that category because I couldn't cut my hair before Sukkot because I was in Shloshim. So I asked Rabbi Fox, I said, Reb Jeff, and I said, what do you think? I think I have to. He said, no, I think your hair looks fine. And I'm like, should have asked the woman. So I waited a few more days and it bothered me, but there's nothing I could do. Okay.
And for men, just as an aside, this is Bert.
I'm about to add shaving.
Yeah, you shaving. Unless you don't shave for 30 days, unless somehow or another it's a necessity for business.
Right, correct. But that's true in general. I'm talking about, yes, 100%, Bert, 100%. Look, if somebody can't sit on a low chair, they don't have to either. If they can't, I mean, I don't know why you couldn't wear Yom Kippur shoes. Usually they're the most comfortable. But let's say somebody has a specific shoe that's the only one they could wear that's leather, built for them. So they can all be relaxed for, yes, and you're right about business. Look, even somebody who's sitting Shiva, if they absolutely had to save their business, they can get up the last 3 days of Shiva and go out to their business and come back. So there are ways to relax it, but let's talk about the general. So yes, for men, there's no shaving as a rule until after Shloshim. Some people keep it longer. And then and by the way, do we go to parties? Music is like iffy. Some people do, some people don't. During Shiva, probably not at all. During Shloshim, a little bit. I went to exercise. There was music in the class, but I just went for the class and went home. No socializing. So, because it was important for me to exercise, I needed to exercise. So, so that would be, that's an example, Bert, right? Of an exception that I needed to exercise, but the class happened to have music, but I wasn't coming for the music. Okay. And then what happens after Shloshim, guys, for parents, not for anybody else?
The year, or just
the year. But what happens? Like, what's the difference?
Like don't go to smachot, except in my case, it was a very strange situation, if I might share. When my mother was high up in years, and then she was nifteret, it was the same year as our son Stephen was engaged to be married. And I only learned about the passing of my mother on the way to picking up my dress for the wedding. So as soon as I learned, I called my rabbi, then Rabbi Rosenblatt. He said, full steam ahead for your son's wedding. And nothing about anything that you'd be Miss Amer dance.
Wait a minute, it was during your Shiva?
No. I had spoken with Rabbi Rosenblatt when I was in my car going home from picking up my dress.
Oh, I understand, but how much before the wedding was that?
Oh, the wedding, my mother died the 14th of Sivan, and which was the 20th
Whatever, yeah.
of May, and his wedding as anniversary this Shabbos, the 2nd of August. I don't know the Hebrew date.
So it wasn't, okay, so it wasn't during, it had nothing to do with picking up the dress. I thought picking up dress, you're like on the way to the wedding or something.
No.
So during Shiva is one thing, what would you do, right? And during Shloshim would be another thing, and during the year, but you don't cancel the wedding.
Right.
It was scheduled before, 100%. So that's the relay, yeah.
Be misameach, not only not canceling it, you be misameach.
Correct, 100%. But somebody who's not so close to the family, if the Chatan and Kala would really miss them, if really take away from their joy, then you have to go. But you don't necessarily, I mean, your mother, that's different. But yes, so those are all the exceptions to the rule. But the general rule is we don't do, musicals or huge public outings, or live music is the big deal. Something called Simchat Mireim. Like it used to be, people only brought music, right? They only brought instruments when there was a wedding or a bar mitzvah. That was the only time they did it. It wasn't like today where you can just get together. So we follow that rule. Some people follow more stringently, some less. Okay. Everybody clear on that? Does that?
I just have a question.
Yes, Tova.
Okay. We just read Matos Masai, and it was talking about
Masay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
And it goes through all the travels, and when Aharon died, when Aharon's son Nadav and Avihu, when they died, he was just silent, and God gave him, to go on, to move on, and to move forward. So my question is, where does all this come from in the Torah?
The Shiva practices?
Thank you for the good question, Tova.
You're saying, first of all, we don't know if he sat some sort of Shiva. We actually don't know. It's kind of hidden in there.
Well, we learned from the Chumash that you get up, and he gave them what he needed to do and how to prevent it from happening in the future. What they can't drink wine, whatever, blah 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 blah. So where does all this come from?
No, 1 second. So what I was saying is that it's possible he did there. It's rabbinic. We find it in rabbinic literature. What you have to do for Shiva doesn't actually say. I'd have to look up exactly what pasuk it's hooked onto, but it's, it is rabbinic in, I believe, and I don't know if any of them are biblical. I think tearing kriya for a parent may be a biblical ordinance. I'm not sure, because I know that for a parent, at least, you have an obligation to do it the rest of your life. If somebody was not observant or didn't know, or let's say not observant, so they didn't, maybe they came home for the funeral, maybe they didn't, but they didn't tear kriya, and tearing a ribbon, I think, does not suffice, but many people do. There's nothing you can do about that. It is something, which is nice. They still should make the bracha and tear kriya later in life, even if it's 25 years later. So maybe kriya is, as opposed to all the other sitting Shiva, minimum, like for an hour a day, like that's the minimum obligation for a parent. But I believe that the rabbis put what we call work clothes on the whole idea of avelut. Okay, mourning. But that would be a whole other shiur, how they got from Torah to, doing it. All right, so now what I want to go with you, and I will in a moment share with you it's like I made a nice pictorial graphic for it.
What's the Hebrew term for with the work clothes that you're just talking about?
Bigdei avodah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but that's a coaching term. You're not going to find that anywhere.
Oh.
It's just, I call it putting work clothes on the mitzvah. That's my term for it. So what happens so new mourning, I think we got that. We've all experienced it. We all know the halachot, or more or less. We all know how the halacha accompanies us. And then we have old mourning. There is only one old mourning that we know, and that is for the Batei Mikdash, the temples. That is the Jewish old mourning. And the rabbis were very thoughtful. And they said, well, Bert, actually, I happened to overhear your conversation at the beginning. I don't know what you were talking about before I came on. That he said, like, I don't know how to turn on sadness in a blink of an eye. I wasn't there with the Beit HaMikdash. I didn't feel the loss. I don't feel visceral grief. Who was it? You said that you feel immediate grief, Tova. And Carol said she felt numbness. There's a reason to feel a grief, loss, sadness, numbness, or something is missing. There's tremendous because it happened, but something that we didn't experience. And then every year to do it again and again and again, like, how do we do it? So the rabbis were very wise. They said, you know what? We're going to take the same model that you start with the most severe restrictions, meaning the most mourning practices, right when the person is numb and feeling grief and sad and doesn't know what to do with themselves. We're going to cocoon the people in Shiva. Then when they start at least being able to somehow look at their loss, then you step down the mourning and allow them to slowly, come back into the world. Then after Shloshim, there's another step down of mourning practices in the hopes that by the time the year is over, because you're actually not supposed to extend mourning practices in halacha, because that's the natural way of the world. Obviously, there are some that are not natural. There's a little girl who came from Israel for treatment and she died after 2 years, a sweet, sweet, sweet little girl. And so that's obviously not the natural way of the world. But the halacha still doesn't want us to prolong mourning practices, because even if it's not the natural way, meaning parents should die, and not the children should die, it still is natural that there is death in the world. But so we never should prolong it. That's not true for old mourning. Old mourning for Tisha B'Av, look how many years it is for the temples. We're still mourning. So obviously there's no time, what's the word? Time when you have an end to, I can't think of the word, right? What?
Limits, time limits.
Yeah, time limit, but there's a word when the time ends and you can't do it anymore. What is that? In law.
Finite, infinite?
No, that's not what I'm looking for. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Like when you say, you know what, you can't punish this person anymore. It happened 30 years ago. The
statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations. Thank you. Appreciate it. So the statute of limitations, there is none for old mourning. It's forever. I mean, I guess when the Mashiach comes, the third temple, maybe we won't have it. But for now, there is no statute of limitations. Okay. So they said, let's do it differently. In order to create the feeling of sadness, we're going to mirror image of new mourning, but we're going to start from a few things. Like we'll start with the 3 weeks. We're going to start with certain mourning practices. That's going to mirror the year. Yeah.
I got a question. Did the mourning practices, the old mourning practices, start after Churban Rishon?
It's a great question. I think they might have been. That's such a good question. I'm not, well,
I mean,
it must have been. Wait, am I right about that? I don't know. The reason I'm asking is because, we knew about Tisha B'Av because there was a question after when Bayit Sheni came. There was a question people asked, do we still have to fast on Tisha B'Av once the second temple was built? But that's a really good question.
Right. And what did they? What was the answer? And what did they do? You have a Beis Hamikdash thing, in place.
Well, they did. They were told that they had to fast still.
They had to fast.
You're asking if we had the 3 weeks and the 9 days, because they're still mourning the first Beit HaMikdash. Maybe that's the answer, that when the Beit HaMikdash is Shlishi, maybe we still will. I don't know what the answer will be then. But I don't actually know the answer to that question, Bert. That's a great question. Did they do the whole 3 weeks, 9 days? I mean, because the first time we see it is in the Gemara, but that could be that it was done before. But the Gemara was codified after the second temple was destroyed, a few hundred years after. So that doesn't teach us whether it was before or not. So I don't know. I don't have an answer. Okay. So what happens when you start with some sadness? Then Rosh Chodesh Av, we step up the sadness. We say there's even more things. Like it just started on Shabbat. We don't wash clothing. We don't eat meat, which is a sign of joy, meat or drink wine, alcohol. No, wine and grape juice, I guess alcohol you could, because those are signs of simcha. Now, I understand that vegetarians and vegans this wouldn't affect them. The wine might, but the meat. But we're talking about the majority of the population. And certainly it was for, you know, that a sign of joy is you have a meat meal, meat or chicken. So, and then what else? We only shower. I mean, it says not to shower at all, but they used to, you know, shower once a week. So if you're showering, because all of us, or most of us, are used to showering once a day, and it's really icky for us not to shower. I was standing next to Rev Soloveitchik when my cousin asked him, is it okay to shower? And he said, yes. So that was good enough for me. So you just take a quick shower. And the way I like to say it is, it's not for pleasure. It's just to get clean. And what I do is I lower the temperature. So however hot you like it, make it less hot so that it will be less pleasurable. Go in and out. But that's not regular, you know, and there's no swimming unless it's for instruction, you know. So that's stepping it up. And then the day of, and that's like Shloshim. And then the day of Tisha B'Av is like Shiva. So the rabbis were very smart to do a mirror image because they said, we have a model, but this is old mourning. So we need to get people used to being sad. If we woke up on Tisha or the 9th day of Av and there were no mourning practices, the 8th day of Av, and he said, okay, boom, tonight you're not only fasting, you're also going to be sad. Like, that's just very hard. You haven't even thought about it. You haven't given yourself time to think about it and get used to it. I mean, Yom Kippur is different. And don't forget, Yom Kippur is also prefaced by Rosh Hashanah and Aseret Yimei Tshuva, the 10 days. So you also prepare for it. You're not coming into Yom Kippur, boom, from one second to the next. So now I'm going to show you a pictorial representation of that. Okay. So new mourning, which we spoke about, first is Shiva, then Shloshim, then the year of mourning. Everybody with me?
Yes.
Old mourning, look how it's mirrored. 3 weeks, step it. So this steps down in mourning practices. Shiva is the most stringent. Step it down to Shloshim, step it down, as everybody here described. First, we start with the 3 weeks, which is actually equivalent. I could have made an arrow, but that's confusing. The 3 weeks are equivalent to the year of mourning. The 9 days are equivalent to Shloshim, and Tisha B'Av is equivalent to Shiva. Everybody follow this now that we've given the preface? Does that make sense to people? If anybody have a question, please make sure you raise your hands or just interrupt because I can't see everybody. Yeah, Judy.
Is any of them comparable to the time of Aninus?
No.
Okay.
So Aninut, which Judy just brought up, is in between the time when the person passes away and they're buried. And that's a time when a person is not obligated in mitzvot if they're the ones dealing, which usually it's the people close to the person who died who are dealing with the funeral and with arrangements for what happens. So ha'osek b'mitzvah, patur mitzvah. Somebody who's dealing with the mitzvah, busy with it, is exempt from other mitzvot. This is a very important mitzvah, chesed shel emet, a kindness of truth, meaning that the person can never repay you. So it's the most kindest kindness you could do for someone. But that's an interesting question, but it doesn't make sense. And you'd have to roll it another day after Tisha. But what would you be waiting for? So that would feel weird. But I appreciate the question. It could have been, right? Maybe somebody would have been creative and come up with it. Is this page clear to everybody? Anybody have a question? Okay, so we're going to go to the next page. In this page, with the arrows.
One other thing, though, is in addition to imitating, what you call new mourning of Ela Chadasha, it also imitates in that sense Yom Kippur, because we don't fast during.
Wait, Rega, hold that thought.
Okay.
It actually is not Yom Kippur. I know you think it is, but it really is different. Yom Kippur is a chag, and it's about tshuva, and it is a day of joy. Tisha B'Av is a day of sadness. That's why it's not. The only thing that's the same are the 5 types of, the 5 inuyim that we go through. The 5, how do you say inuy in English? I forgot. The 5 things you're not allowed, the prohibitions. but one is rabbinic, one is biblical, but they're actually not the same. And I think people confuse them a lot because they're the 2 long fast days. But let's go through it, okay? So here I set them up, right here I set them up in the order of the timeline. Everybody with me on this? This is the timeline. The first is Shiva, the second is Shloshim, the third is Erev Mourning. The first is 3 weeks, the second is 9 days, third is Shabbat. Here I set them up with the ones that match are now next to each other. So let's go through it. During Shiva, there's no washing or only minimal washing. On Tisha B'Av, I would say there's really no washing except for like cleanliness. It's really like you don't need to take a shower if you took a shower the day before or 2 days before. Really minimal. If you're dirty for any reason, you of course can clean your hands, and for cleanliness, using the bathroom, absolutely wash your hands even with soap. There's no haircuts or shaving. Oh, I didn't put them. I don't know if this is my latest one. Well, see, it's a little complicated. There is no haircuts and shaving on Tisha B'Av, but there's already no haircuts or shaving from the 3 weeks. So that's why I didn't put it here, but maybe I should have. So there's no haircuts or shaving. There's no haircuts or shaving here either, correct? Everybody with me on that on Tisha B'Av? Because it started, maybe I'll fix it afterwards, that they'll have everything in it. There's no leather shoes, right? During Shiva, you don't wear leather shoes. On Tisha B'Av, you don't wear leather shoes. No talking frivolously. You're not supposed to have like you can have lighthearted conversation. But the point of Shiva is to talk about your loss. So sometimes it includes some niceties, but people who are coming to be Menachem Avel, they're coming to hear about your loss and help you process it. And remember, on Tisha B'Av, we try to say not to have greetings. We try not to talk about frivolous. Obviously, with children, they need to be distracted. We get that. But adults are not really supposed to just, if you're going to watch a show or a movie, it should be about something that connects or makes you sad. No greetings, same, right? We don't say hi. You don't say hi to a person sitting Shiva. No studying Torah for joy. No perfumes or anointing. No marital relations. We sit on low stools, and also on Tisha B'Av, we sit on low stools. The difference is, as Bert pointed out, there's no eating or drinking on Tisha B'Av. So I have some thoughts about that, which I'm going to talk about afterwards. Can we hold that thought, Bert? Are you okay with that?
I just wanted to say that it's interesting how you learn something new you could always learn something new. When I was at Echa, I would say hello to people. I would greet them because I didn't know, and they weren't answering me. And I didn't know why. And now, afterwards I understood that you're not supposed to say hello or anything.
Right, because you're supposed to take away the social niceties because we're supposed to all be really sad. Now, it's hard to be, but now that you're learning this class, maybe it'll be easier for you to say, okay, I need to focus that we had a loss of our nation, and we're still supposed to be mourning it.
Bert, I've heard a story attributed to Rav Soloveitchik, concerning Rav Soloveitchik, that he was in the middle of Shiva for one of his relatives. I don't know, his wife or whomever, and a bunch of Rebbeim came and found him studying Torah. And saying, and he said to the Rav, and they said, Rav, listen, whatever the reason, he says, I thought it was traditional. They said to the Rav that you don't study Torah, and stuff like that. And he said something to the effect of, I'll gladly go to the Gehenna where they'll send me for studying Torah.
Right.
I mean, for him, he could not do it.
Right. Other people can't not shower. He couldn't not study Torah.
Right. Just saying, but, as I say, for him, he just simply couldn't, because he was alone. He says, I couldn't not learn, so I thought it was
totally. Yep. Okay. So Shloshim is comparable to the 9 days, as we saw up here. Remember? Shloshim is comparable to the 9 days. So no pleasure trips during Shloshim, no live music. So, 9 days, different people have different ways of holding. Some don't listen to any music. Some don't listen, some or only sad music, or what Reb Jeff calls dance music. We shower only as needed. Again, I don't even have to take not for pleasure. That can go out. And then here, no shaving. And again, I'm not adding the caveat that if you need it for work, those are the exceptions. And that's true for both of them. My father, Alav Shalom, actually, the only time, except when he's at Shiva, that he did not shave was during the 9 days. He shaved during Sphira, he shaved during the 3 weeks because he needed it for work. No donning pressed clothing during Shloshim. It's true, you don't wear new or pressed clothing. So I'll put in actually new or pressed clothing. Just make that fit a little better if I can.
Purchasing clothing too.
Right. So I didn't want to get into everything, but yes.
Okay.
And if there's a sale or if, that felt a little complicated. These are really strict, the morning practices, no swimming. So I wouldn't say during Shloshim you can't swim. I don't know that that's true. That's something that's added for us in the 9 days. So there are some things that are a little bit different. No freshly laundered clothing, although it's very hard to, we used to put on our clothing for half an hour. I don't know what I'm going to wear the whole 9 days, but you certainly can wear fresh underclothing. I don't think you can't. You can always switch that also during Shiva. That's not a problem. But we try not to wear freshly pressed clothing. No washing of clothing. During Shloshim, you can wash clothing. And during the 9 days, by the way, if you have clothing that's going to get ruined if you don't wash it, you can still wash it. But in general, we do our laundry before the 9 days and our hamper fills up during the 9 days. And for children, you always can. And we add, so this is comparable to this, no meat or wine. That is not true for people sitting Shiva. So it's interesting that it's comparable, the idea of food. Food has is a much bigger component, which is added, and I want to talk about that afterwards. Then during the year of mourning, generally do not attend weddings or other events with live music. I would say here, generally, weddings. Refrain from social gatherings. That's true for the year of mourning, especially large ones, no concerts or musicals. Haircut after someone mentions that you need one. People familiar with that? It's a known thing that when somebody tells you after Shloshim you need a haircut, so people know to say, you really need a haircut. We actually have somebody now, his Shloshim ended during the 3 weeks, and he really needed a haircut even before the 3 weeks, but he's waiting till after Tisha B'Av to get his haircut. I'm sure a lot of people will say to him, I think you could use a haircut. Okay, we also add here, refrain from saying Shechianu on new fruit and new clothing, except on Shabbat, you could do it on new fruit or even on new clothing, I guess, if you had to. But during the week, and why is that? Because it adds joy. When you eat it, I actually got a fruit that I hadn't eaten, a different kind of cherry, and I waited till Shabbat to eat it. So, because it was delicious to taste something new that was yummy. So, the peaches or the plums or something that comes only in the summer. That's only on Borei Priya Eitz, by the way, like strawberries or anything else that's Borei Priya Dama, it's not a problem. So do people see, it's not exact 1-to-1, but it's very close. Do people see that? I want to ask if people are seeing that. Here, I'm going to do this on new fruit because that's, again, comparable for food. Do people see how it's flipped? That's why I did the arrows. The arrows are the timeline, right? First Shiva, then Shloshim, then year of mourning. The arrows here are the 3 weeks, then the 9 days, then Tisha B'Av, but here they're comparable to each other. So I just wanted to check.
Rabbanit, can you please email
a link to this
material to me so that I could then send it to them? So the charts so far, the 2 charts that you've had, so that I could email it to the group.
No problem at all. Okay. So now I'm just giving you some sources from the Gemara so you see it. Amar Rav Ashi. Shani, why is that a Shane? Okay, Avelut Chadasha me Avelut Yishana. So you see that Rav Soloveitchik didn't coin the term, but he took from it and showed this parallel, this mirror image. That's something that isn't here. Rav Ashi stated a different resolution. It doesn't matter what it's talking about. New mourning, i.e. the mourning for a relative who just passed away, is different from old mourning, i.e. mourning over historic events, such as the destruction of the temple. Whatever it was, it's appropriate to be more lenient in the latter. And then he continues on that he learned something that I just put the English in. It's appropriate to be more stringent. It's whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's just you're seeing. I just wanted you to see the terminology that you can't form a comparison between old mourning and new mourning in one very specific instance. Actually, one second. One second. Old mourning is actually considered more stringent in many ways than new mourning, because new mourning is capped after a year or after shloshim, whereas old mourning, people can mourn forever. Yes.
That one of the things that just occurred to me that we do, with the old mourning is on Tisha B'Av, we don't put on talis and tefillin,
Right.
until after mincha.
Which is also similar to what happens. That would be the closest to aninut.
Right.
Is that what you were going to say?
I don't know.
Judy, that would be the closest to aninut, because during aninut you don't do mitzvot, so you wouldn't put on talis and tefillin. So that's cool. I never thought of that. That would be the closest, even though it doesn't work with the timeline. But it's interesting to say that. So thank you. That's very helpful. Okay, nice noticing that. Very nice. So here we see that in Yirmiyahu, and we do a lot of quotes from Yirmiyahu because he was a really sad prophet and angry. And it says here, thus said the Lord of hosts, contemplate your situation, meaning old mourning, and call upon the dirge women to come and send for the wise women to come, because they used to be that the mekoninot, you hear the word kina in there?
Yes.
They were keening. They learned, that was something they did. They should keen. Why should they be keening? Because that makes people cry. There's no mitzvah to cry during Shiva. I mean, we're assuming people will be sad and they probably will cry, but not everybody cries. But I don't know if I would call it a mitzvah, but there is a strong support or a strong suggestion to cry over the Beit HaMikdash, to actually cry. And in fact, some people read Kinot in a sobbing voice in yeshivas. They read it in a very sobbing voice. And that's why we spend time, we have 3 hours of Kinot in HIR, which you can come to in person or on Zoom. And we actually explain the Kinot. So it's not just words in Hebrew that you don't understand. And you're like, okay, this doesn't mean anything to me, so why would I cry over it? But when you take 12 Kinot and you talk about them, that can make people sad.
What is keynote? What is it? Kuf?
Oh, keynote.
What?
Kina means lamentations or a type of mourning. In English, it's called an elegy, which is like a eulogy, but an elegy is a sad poem. It's a fancy word. So kina, you may have heard that before. No, that we say kinos or keynotes on Tisha B'Av.
I never knew what it. I never.
So look how close it is to the word mekoninot. See, it's the same source, because they're the dirge women. They're the ones who keen and cry. They may say sad poetry. Let them come quickly and raise up a wailing for us. Let our eyes run with tears and our eyes gush with waters. Actually, af actually is our eyelids. I love that I can just fix it right now. And waters, meaning tears. And I think this is the question here. This was the question that you asked a little bit, Bert. Should I still weep in the 5th month, even though our new Beit HaMikdash was built? Zachariah asked that. And the answer is yes. You still have to. But I don't know if there was 3 weeks and 9 days then. Don't forget, Bert, it was still fresh. For them, it wasn't old mourning. For them, it was new mourning. Do you follow that?
Yeah, well, as I say,
it was only 70 years in between. They were still feeling it.
But yeah, yes, they could feel it.
Think about the Shoah. We still feel it, and much more viscerally than we do the destruction of the temples, because we still have people who felt it. Yeah.
And in that sense, it's more like new. It's sort of like new mourning.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. For them, it was new mourning. It wasn't really old mourning. The old mourning came when when the second temple was destroyed. So that was it. So very nice. This is, by the way, I've taught this many times. This never came up for me before. So thank you. I always learn from the people who come to the class, my students. Thank you so much. Okay. One more thing. The Shulchan Aruch, who codified Jewish law, it is proper for every God-fearing person to feel pain and anguish over the destruction of the temple. Sheyehei miyatzer, it should be mitzaer. I would think it should be mitzaer. I don't know what meitzer maybe. Should feel pain and anguish. And how do we feel that? So the rabbi said, okay, we're going to go into a sad period. You're all going to feel the absence of music, the absence of doing fun things, the absence of pleasure. Slowly, we're going to look. am gluten-free and dairy-free, and I'm allergic to mushrooms and other things. And as much as I want to be vegetarian or vegan, it's very hard for me because I can't have dairy and I can't have a lot of things. And I really feel it during the 9 days because I have to find things to make me feel full that are protein that's not meat or chicken, which is my go-to to feel full for protein. So for people who are vegetarian or vegan, it's no big deal for them. They eat the same as they do all year round. But for people like me, it's actually difficult. So just saying.
For my son-in-law and my newborn daughters are both allergic to, they're both lactose intolerant, so it's,
Same. I also can't have
the
dairy.
9 days, become more difficult for them because.
Well, that's what I just said. That's like me, dairy-free.
Rabba,
I
Bracha, how
gluten
about fish?
and mushrooms.
Rabba,
No, fish isn't a problem. Fish isn't.
what?
Fish is not a problem. One can be
That is
pescatarian.
protein. Also beans.
Oh, you're saying for me. Oh, you're saying suggestions. Okay, that's a whole thing. Yes, correct. Yes, I have to learn to make fish.
I don't miss meat at all. I eat meat on Shabbos, but during the week I don't even eat meat.
I am so
I don't
jealous
eat
of
meat
you.
at all.
I am jealous of you. For another conversation, I have to say that there was 1 year and during the 9 days when I said, I'm going to be smart. I joined this vegan group and they gave because I can't have dairy. So it doesn't help me to join a vegetarian group because everything usually has dairy in it. And they gave all these wonderful recipes for vegan that they said, here, use it during the 9 days. And I was so proud of myself. It was like 2 years ago, by the way, not so long ago. And I made like 5 different recipes and I hated every one of them. And I was so hungry because I didn't have time to make other food. And I kept on just falling back on eggs and tuna, which was not fun. So you have to know that you like the food before you make it. I'm just saying. I thought, oh, I'm being so smart. I'll go vegan. Well, that didn't work. Okay. But that's me. So that's not what this topic is about. I'm just saying that I feel the 9 days very viscerally. That's what I'm saying. Whereas people who are pescatarian and only eat meat and chicken on Shabbat, you won't really feel it. It'll be the same as you eat all the time. So if there was a gluten-free week, I'd be like, yay, no problem, like Pesach. Not such a difference, a little bit of a difference because of kitniot, but for me, not such a big difference. Okay. So here's something that I found that Rev Stephen wrote, which I thought was really, 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 really beautiful. The goal of Jewish life is celebrating and emphasizing life, but mourning and death are part of it too. And 3 weeks out of the year are geared towards experiencing collective national loss and entering that emotional religious space. Even if it doesn't rattle or shake you to realize that there were centuries upon centuries of Jewish communities for whom this one place represented the temple, the presence of God in their lives. Remember, this was a place where mourners came, where bridegrooms came. It was the central hub of communal Jewish life. And the sense of that locus becoming vulnerable is an awareness that even the things we hold most sacred, which we know today after October 7th, of course, can be violated in this world. Even the most sacred things in society can be ruptured, their physical presence gone. So how do I go on? And I thought that was just such a beautiful, I found that quote once and I'm like, this is going into my source sheet because it's so stunning. I do want to address, and this is just a picture of the model of the second temple, of the third temple, sorry, that's in Israel. It used to be by the Holy Land Hotel. I don't know if there is a Holy Land Hotel. I think it moved. So what I wanted to talk about for a few minutes, I don't think I'll get to the guidelines, but you can all get them. They're available all over the place in our website. They're printed out, so you can look at the guidance. I'm not sure, but I think now you'll understand the guidelines better because you'll be able to follow. Yes, no, everybody with me? Because I can go through them, but I'm just not sure you need me to go through.
We went through, we went through at the beginning of the 3 weeks, we went through, the material you put together. It was really
that's
great.
the guidelines. Great. Okay, so you don't need me to go through it. It's just that if you go through it, you might find it a little bit more. Now I want to talk about the food part. And I just want to say, you're just a wonderful group to teach. Every time I get to teach you, it is so delightful because you all choose to learn. You all ask thoughtful questions. You really care about understanding the material. It is such a delight to teach in this group every time I get to do it. So I just want to make sure and tell you that before we log off. It's just a bracha. It's really a blessing for me to get to teach here. It's hard. I would almost never say no to Bert if
you are the bracha.
Oh, well, okay.
Question?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it okay to cut and file one's nails during the 9 days?
If it's part of your usual, yes. If it's a special thing to get a nail polish, I would say no, because that would bring extra joy.
Every
If
Friday.
it happens to be that, you just needed to do it now, it's actually can be painful and difficult if you don't. Yes, 100% you can. Now I do want to talk, is okay? I want to talk about food. And by the way, you can all ask me questions. If you have any questions, halachic, otherwise, feel free to text me or WhatsApp me or email me or call me. That's what I'm here for. Okay, so let's talk about food. What happens when you add a fast day on Tisha B'Av? And I'm talking about people who are allowed to fast. I am not talking about people who have any medical issues and cannot, or emotional medical. It's not just physical. I mean, emotional issues are also like people who have food, eating disorders, or people who have emotional illnesses where this could add, like somebody who goes challenged by depression or bipolar. Fasting can actually add to that and put them into a very bad state. I am not talking about people who cannot fast. They absolutely should eat and drink. I'm talking about the 80% or 85% or however many, the majority of people who it's hard, but they're able to fast. Why do we think the rabbi superimposed fasting on the 9 days? Sorry, apologies, on Tisha B'Av. I'm not even talking about Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, just Tisha B'Av right now. Why do you think? I'd like to hear from this group, and I really would like to hear. If you can stay on just a couple, I know we have 4 minutes left.
It really gets you to think.
It gets you to think. What does it get you to think about, Judy?
It gets you to tell yourself, since I'm hungry, I must be hungry for a higher reason.
Okay, so it gets you more focused. Great. What else?
I don't understand the question.
You don't understand the question. Well, Bert said, Shiva, there's no fasting during Shiva. Why are we fasting on Tisha B'Av? So I'm asking, what did it do when the rabbis looked at the list of prohibitions for Shiva and put them on, superimpose them on Tisha B'Av, but then added no eating or drinking?
Oh, I thought you meant on Shabbat. I that's why I didn't. Okay, now I understand.
No, that would only be Yom Kippur, but yes. So and I don't want to talk about Yom Kippur. That would be a whole different shiur, the difference between Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av, which I think is a great shiur, maybe for another time, not for today. What does it do to us when we have fasting, communal fasting? Why do you think they added it?
Because I think, as Judy said, when you're fasting, you go more inward.
Ah, yafeh. Nice.
More inward.
A nice way to say it, yeah.
And rather than external, and you connect. It allows you to connect more with the purpose of why you're fasting.
Nice, beautiful. Because we're unhappy, basically. We're reminded every second of the day that we're on Tisha B'Av. Again, not somebody who's medically cannot fast. For people who medically cannot fast, 1 second, and wish to find a way to feel connected, because that is something that fasting does. You look around you, and everybody around you who's fasting looks the same as you, feels, yucky, and right, those who can fast, that also is a connection. You're like, yeah, we're both fasting because we both care about the halacha. But for people who are not allowed to fast, whether it's from, some people get kidney stones, some people get vertigo, there are all sorts of reasons why people are not allowed to fast. They take certain medications. So those people sometimes talk with me about, well, I actually feel bad that I can't fast, but I know I can't. I know I'm not allowed to. I'm actually following halacha. If I don't fast, if you do fast, you're actually endangering yourself, which is asur, which is forbidden. But I feel disconnected from everybody around me. So what do I do? So I have suggestions for that, but that's for another conversation. I think that's an important conversation, but it's a different conversation. Okay, so I think it also makes us think about what it's like to suffer, because we are actually, that's what enoi means. That's what it means, suffering. We do feel a kind of suffering when we're fasting. So, we might feel a little bit, well, what was it like for the Jews at that time? What is it like for the Jews all through the ages to suffer? I mean, today, of course, as Bert, dedicated to hostages, maybe they're also suffering. I mean, I'm not going to say the other thing, but, we know of other people who are hungry, anybody who is starving, we can feel bad for them, right? We don't want people to be starving anywhere. But I think that fasting actually has a way of bonding us together. And I think it was very wise of the sages to add fasting, as much as I hate fast days and I don't do great on them. But I think that there's bonding that happens. And I like the way both of you said it, this turning inward and thinking and looking around and seeing the people around us. So that's how we feel connected to people. And I think it's kind of similar, again, putting aside vegetarians or pescatarians and everybody within pescatarian, meaning vegetarian and vegans, but the majority of people who have meat or chicken, they do feel it. Or not having wine, grape juice. I mean, I don't have wine as a rule, so I don't feel that at all. There is no problem. I almost never have wine, so there is no issue for me. Like that doesn't feel like walking it back, but other things do. Or not being able to swim, so it's not terrible, but still like to be able to swim. It's hot, it's yucky out. Or other things like, oh wait, can't go to the musicals during the 9 days. Oh wait, I can't do there. Or we don't go on trips, or we don't write. So you feel it more. And then I think that the added components of food really does make a difference in helping us feel more and more and more until we get to Tisha B'Av. And by the way, remember that other than the food and the special Inuim on Tisha B'Av, but the 9 days continue till the 10th of Av midday. So we generally don't, one second. We generally don't wash clothing, and we don't, all things we don't do during the 9 days. We wait until Chatzot Hayom, 1 o'clock on the 10th day of Av, which would be Monday next week, to renew them. Yes, Karen.
Maybe you discussed this before, but why isn't there a fast day for the Shoah?
No, we did not discuss that.
Oh,
that's a whole separate thing. Actually, in Israel, they called it, they said Asara B'Tevet is Yom HaKadisha Klali, meaning anybody who you don't know who when they died, or when they were killed, rather, in the Shoah, or died in the Shoah from whatever. So that's the day to say Kaddish for them. So that's, on a fast day. I don't know. It's hard to impose a new fast day. It's not a
well, that I know. Yeah.
Not an easy thing. So I don't know. This is about specifically the 3 weeks. And Bert, you have Karen's email. Do you know Karen?
Not really. Karen.
He's going to send out the source sheet, and you'll be able to watch.
Right. Do me a favor, Karen. Could you let me give you my email, and then I'd appreciate it if both Karen and Helen and
they're from Rochester,
and Elaine, and stuff like that. Please send me your email addresses, and then I'll let you know about that, because you weren't here for the beginning. I'm going to
send out the source sheet.
Okay.
The source sheet. So let me give you my email address. It's B as in boy, N as in Norman, U as in Sam, B as in boy, A, C Charlie, H Harry, E R Robert 74@gmail.com. And and when I have other notifications, I'll let you know as well. And you weren't here for the beginning. I strongly urge you, if you don't want to continue, even if you don't want to do this every Monday, which we have our regular group, for the next 3 weeks coming up, Rabbi Linzer is going to be doing something about about halacha and handicapped people. And so, and if he's sensational, Rabbi Linzer.
Yeah, I've heard him. You did you ever live in Rochester?
My brother lived in Rochester.
Oh, okay. And
my brother with the triplet girls.
Yes.
With the triplet girls.
Yeah,